And I was like, let's go in there and heal, honey. We can't be in this grief. We got to stop. And we are the leader in this family. So we've got to show people that they too have to step out.
Everybody has a story to tell that makes them extraordinary. And that's what this podcast is all about. Welcome back to Conversations with Caitlin.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Caitlin. Today, we are filming actually on Juneteenth, so my guest is even more fabulous. And during Pride Month, we're hitting all the holidays, all of the celebrations this June. But I'm very excited today to welcome Patrick Peele. He is a lifestyle influencer who has absolutely made his name in event productions. He is also a professional performer and a yoga instructor, hitting all of the things, being everyone's quintessential man. Please welcome Patrick Peele to Conversations with Caitlin. We gotta check all the boxes, baby.
God.
Check.
You make me seem extra
You
fabulous.
are, baby.
I love
You've been
you.
doing all the
you.
things. I love when we prep for these interviews. I get a guest sheet. I get to know a little bit more about you. Every time it's someone I know and love, I always learn something new, and it just cracks me up. So I'm like, we gotta hit all the points today.
Yes.
All right, doll. So for my guests who may not know you, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your origin story, kind of how you came to be in this event producing world and really influencing all of us to be the most fabulous version of ourselves.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it started being on a musical theater stage. I found myself attracted to dance and singing, and me and my sister would play around and record on the cassette player and things like that, and do shows for my parents and what have you. And I entered a couple of talent shows and did my thing. I was always nervous, but I started just to notice that I had a knack for it. And we ended up doing The Breakfast Club when I was in 8th grade, and we sat in front of the whole entire screen, wrote it down, handwritten, the whole entire thing.
I love it.
And then performed it, and it was a hit where we grew up in Stillness, California. And so, after that, I was then thrown into acting classes, and that broke me down and made me cry and shed myself and all of that, and build character. But meanwhile, I also was playing musical instruments. I was also getting involved in choir and singing and what that also meant. So just kind of really touching on all the bases as a performer should.
Yes.
And then went to college, and I wanted dance. That's all I ever wanted. So found myself in my first graduated from San Francisco State with my BA. That was the first requirement. But while I was in the Bay Area, I also then became very aware of my Black heritage, Black culture.
Yes.
Because during elementary, high school, it was primarily Mexican and white that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. So you didn't really come in contact with the Black culture, even though my family tried as best as they could. But it's the history and the depending on what they know, there's still a lot out there that they don't know, and mine came through dance and the body of movement. So with that vocabulary came through, graduated, went to New York, $40 in my pocket.
As you do.
Crazy. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from a friend, says, hey, come to Denver and audition for Cleo Parker. Auditioned for the dance company, got in 2 weeks of intense, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I knew I needed to be there. And from there, things just kept happening, touring nationally, internationally, dancing at the Kennedy, the Lincoln, going to Israel, going to just a lot of different places that I normally would not go, but also tested my character as well. As we all know, I'm a hard-headed.
Oh, honey.
But, I think you have to be hard-headed in order to be in this industry. You have to have that thick skin.
You do.
But you also are constantly humbled by it too, so knocked it on your butt, but you got to get back up. So I have been dancing from Black Dance Company to other Black dance companies, Garth Fagan being one. And then it just came to a point where I was just not happy. I looked at myself, I was thin. I just was not happy. And here my sister is getting ready to pop a baby out. And I'm on the other side of the country. She's in California and I'm in New York. And I was like, it's time to go home. It's time to go home. So I went home, Next thing I know, my dad's like, hey, Patrick, why don't you go to Las Vegas and audition? And my dad's like of the church, you know, like the bishop now and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, Daddy. So I call my friend up and he's like, hey, don't come this week, come next weekend. Jubilee's having auditions. I came out, 2 other friends. Next thing I know, I am kept their cut. I am now invited to see the show in the booth. I had no idea what I was auditioning for. I was a concert dancer.
Yes.
All of a sudden, I see these women descending from the ceiling, completely jeweled out. The boys in tuxedo jackets, rhinestones, and I am like, what is happening? And then it came to the third ballet, which was Samson and Delilah. And I was like, oh my God, all you see are black leather G-strings, leather straps on the feet, and a couple of leather straps on the arms, and that's it. That's the costume.
Yep.
A little harness. And I'm like, oh my God, my mama's gonna see my naked little butt on this, my big old butt on this stage. What is going on? So anyhow, they offered me a contract. I said yes. It was a full experience with Fluff Laco, who was the company manager, and just it was originality.
And wasn't she, they had a version of her in that recent film with Pamela Anderson, The Last Showgirl, right? So
Yes.
that woman, anyone watching that who was in Jubilee knows exactly who Fluff is.
Yes.
Fluff is iconic.
Iconic.
For good or for bad.
You know, I think anyone who's successful always has that. You
Yes.
are not successful because you were a nice person constantly.
100%.
You have to stand your ground and with your conviction. And so Fluff just being a little like, what, maybe 5 feet, if even that. I mean, the power that she held in the room, her little fiery redhead, I was like, who is this woman?
Yes.
But also very fearful of her. But we used to smoke downstairs in the basement. And the stories she would tell me, just, you know, how the girls would get ready and have their fur coats and dresses ready to go and mingle and sit with the high rollers. And you were royalty if you were in these shows. And I caught the last tail of that when I came into Jubilee, because they were going through their rendition and all of that. And I was like, let me just sail on this little coat wing here.
That's right.
So, but did Jubilee, had a great time, but Jubilee stayed with me. It had a mark, and I knew there was a reason why I needed to be in Vegas. I left the show due to some unfortunate moments, but once again, it builds character, right? Because I ended up finding myself back in Las Vegas. And during that, I had gone on a tour to Japan. I did a cruise ship. I did other things as well. But Vegas was always calling me back. And so when I came back, I was like, I'm done dancing. The one time the universe heard me, and I auditioned, and I did not pick up anything after that. And so I ended up finding myself in the spa industry, which was something I did when I would live in New York and I didn't have work or anything.
Right.
I would make my ends meet. And so being in the spa industry just really kind of had a more holistic approach to my life, more on the skin, about massage and what those kinds of things do to your body. And so I started living in that world, and then I got out. And when I got out, I went into design. And I went to go work for Dongya, which was a manufacturer high-end company that repped a lot of different wall coverings and all kinds of different textiles and things like that. It was my introduction into the interior design world, where here it is, we have the MGM, we have Caesars. Everyone comes to our shop, our studio space, to pick the fabrics that they're going to have put up in their bathrooms and their guest rooms and suites and so on and so forth all over the casino. And so I would be the one selecting the fabric that was presented to Roger Thomas, to the other design teams and things like that. And I was like, wow, power comes in a different way. And I thought, you know, during my time working for the spas, I always had an issue with older white men in executive positions. And I was like, why do I have this problem in talking to them and addressing? And it was, my parents never taught me how to talk to white men, you know, older white men. Other men, not a problem, but white men was different. And so here it was all of a sudden where I'm now in a control spot of what you're going to see. Not what you want to see, but what I want you to see. So
right.
the game started to play. But eventually, I found myself, you know, doing the El Cortez design competition, which really catapulted me. Me and Michael Patrick, who was my design partner at the time, we got an El Cortez. It still might be there. My hotel suite was all painted in gold and very ahead of its time. But we were selected, and El Cortez really liked us. And so all of a sudden, we ended up designing another space in there. And before we know, we had some high-end clients. Well, at the same time, I was also being offered a event design production position with a DMC here in town. And so I ended up like, how can I say, just taking it on and didn't realize how much responsibility I was already under. So I ended up getting fired.
It's so fun to get fired from a job. Guys, if you haven't been fired once, you're not living if you haven't been fired, okay?
You know, and I was like, she fired me on the side. I had already done all the design, ordered everything. There was some miscommunication that the items that she was expecting would show up another day. And therefore, I was dismissed. Anyhow, at that moment, I also had to dissolve my interior design company because it was just too much for me.
Right.
So on that moment, I really focused on events and event production and really making the wow factor. The things that I had gone through with dance companies, musical theater, Jubilee, all of these productions and all of that all started to come back to play. So, and now here I am, you know, award-winning and I spend lots and lots of money. And,
isn't that a good feeling to spend other people's
parties.
money?
Yeah. So.
Well, I love what you said. A couple of things that just stuck out to me. You know, you are inherently a storyteller. I think anyone who meets you and spends maybe 5 minutes talking to you can pick up on that. But it's so fascinating how dance tells a very specific story. It's absolutely so powerful, right? Because typically there's no singing with it unless we're in musical theater.
Right.
Then you have the interior design piece, and those, I think we forget sometimes when we walk into spaces that are beautiful, everything was curated to tell a story.
Correct.
And that is really magnificent if you think about it. Everything is art, right? We can find art in anything. But I love, and your journey I think is so interesting too, because you work in a very fast-paced, very demanding, very stressful, I would presume, environment. I mean, we do our fundraising events once or twice a year, and I'm like, ooh, this is a lot. You know, so I laugh every time I think about you because I'm like, you do this every single day. So with the events, what has kept you in the destination management like space? Is it because it's always something fresh and new with the clients, or is it just your absolutely fabulous nature? You're like, I'm gonna just keep creating and creating and creating till I can't.
I think it's a little bit of the both. I love interacting with my clients. I look at my clients as collaborators. I know that people look at their clients, well, I'm providing a service for them. And yes, you are. But innately, whether they're giving you feedback or not, you're still collaborating with them. I think within that collaboration also is the creativity of my mind, just always seeing something turn to the side. How else can I make it different?
Yeah.
Even, you know, there are clients that come in and they don't have an idea and they just want a cocktail party. Well, you still have to think about how are those guests going to be coming into the room?
Right.
How are they going to mingle? You know, are they supposed to exchange business cards? Are they, you know, to just eat and then leave? Like, what is it that they're doing in this space? And so I think once you have a better understanding of that portion of it, the guest experience, then it's easy to start to design for them as well. To assist the storytelling.
So another thing about you that I know from our lovely friendship that blossomed in musical theater is, and you just said it, turning something on its head and making it different or special. What is that process like for you? Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was getting dressed, okay? I am not the most fashionable person in the world.
Oh, please.
And I am saying that about myself, folks. But I was laughing about something. I don't know. I had been watching a documentary or something like that, and fashion was a piece of it. And I was looking through my closet and I was like, what if I just wore this with this? Like, what would happen, right? No one's wearing it. It's not mainstream. So I guess to translate this like extraneous thought I just had, how with events do you really do you know when to play it safe or when to push that bound and just take it to another level with something people have literally never experienced?
I think, yes, you start to read clients. You can read on, because we always get an RFP, generally, we get a request for our services. And so they'll list things out. And if they're listing a Vegas party, things that I've already done, then those are some of the arenas where I will push it a little bit more, only because Vegas is so vague.
Yes.
And what is it they're wanting to do? I just recently had a client, they wanted a cirque event.
Ooh.
And, cirque is something that I do constantly. It's like a Vegas theme.
All day, every day.
All the time. But it's also, what can I do to make it interesting for me? As well as for them. It's not just about them. Like, I have to be fed and make sure also the artists that I'm working with are also fed.
Right.
So that when we come together, they know, oh, when I'm working with Patrick Peele, it's not going to be the same old, same old. I don't know what's getting ready to happen, but we know it's going to be fabulous,
Exactly.
And I will take some of their ideas, the performers' ideas, and we will do it on the spot, and it will come together.
Wow.
But it's one of those things where you have to trust the people that you also work with. So,
and that could be vendors, designers you bring in to do special activations.
Correct.
Probably even food. I mean, food is a total art.
It is.
If you have the budget for it, you could really go some wild ways with that.
Yes, and I only will provide the vignette for the food, but as far as cooking the food, that's not my thing. I will leave that to other people.
To them.
Yeah, but no, there's a lot of activations now that involve the liquor and the food, and it's every touch point, part of events that we're trying to make the story happen. It just isn't a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, and fluff, as people like to.
It's not. It really isn't.
Art is fluff, but yet you want to come see a show and you want all of us to look beautiful and sound beautiful and do all of this.
Yeah.
But same for the room, right?
Yeah.
It's taking that shell. Now, you were touching on something about, what with these clients, what do you want? Do you want them to come in, have a wow moment and leave? But what about, how do you feel the event production side really brings that connection and that collaboration and that kind of, as we like to say it, a little kiki with your coworkers and your colleagues? Like, have you seen these events really take that to another level for the guests?
I just have to keep commenting on my last one because I basically took a budget that was, I want to say, about $300,000 to $700,000.
Nice.
At two different events, well, more than two. But the way that they were working and the way that the work was presented to them and why it was presented in a way that they needed to have it. They needed a wow factor. They needed to introduce the executives of the company. How are we going to do this when I'm competing against them in New Orleans the year before, and they're leading down a parade? How am I going to compete with that in Las Vegas and we're Hotel City?
You're right, exactly.
I'm stuck in a ballroom.
Corner. Yeah.
So when you start to look at those kind of factors, okay, what am I? I got Cirque, I've got Vegas, I got Elvis. What am I going to do? So there's a couple of things we threw at the drawing board, but eventually Cirque, my version of it, there was the gantry that came through. It's a moving apparatus, 20 by 20, that literally houses 6 different acts on it. So we brought the executives in on that, fully branded. So they had their moment. It was also a sponsorship. I've got to think about who is sponsoring what and how many places can I get those sponsorships in as well.
Right.
So it's playing for the client, making them shine, making the sponsor shine, making the everyone shine, the entertainers, and making it worth their while so that the next time I ask for a favor, they're there, So
you're like, hey, remember that time we did that really cool thing and it was really fun? It's similar to theater, right? When you work with directors who have a vision and they know how to execute the vision, because it's not just having the vision. Right. Visionaries are great.
Yeah.
But then who are the people that can execute it, right? In our world, it's actors. In event world, it's top to bottom, the vendors, you really having that saying, okay, guys, like, we're doing this. So You probably have some of the most hysterical stories that one could ever tell about vendors and partners. And so I am dying to know, to dig into the Nosy Nelly vault and understand what is like one of those events or those clients that you were just like, oh my God, I'll never forget them as long as I live.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed with some really, really great clients that have allowed me to push the envelope. And in that, there's a couple that have really kind of like stood out to me. Jim Beam was one. Jim Beam is what made me.
Really?
Yeah, Jim
I love
Beam.
it.
And it was my first year, actually, like my first or second year doing in corporate events. And Jim Beam had been around in our company for a little moment, and they weren't gelling with the teams. And so I came in, and then they're like, Patrick, can you take this over? Sure. And she just gravitated to me. And she was one of the kind of clients that, beautiful, dark hair, piercing blue eyes, but she had a clan around her. She had her girls.
The posse was arriving with her.
Yes. And so you didn't just present to her. You presented to the team.
The princess's posse.
Exactly.
Okay, got
and they
it.
all have their own. So not only am I entertaining them, but I'm also trying to pick up personalities. And
Right.
granted, I have maybe one or two people on my team, but when I'm faced with 6 or 7 women coming
boy.
at me with tablescapes and entertainment and timing of the evening and the venue and I'm like, okay, yeah. So I was helping a friend move. He was moving a mattress, and so at that time I had a truck, and so I was helping him move. And he said to me, he was on the intuitive side, he says, hey, if you stand by this particular woman who's a client of yours, she's got dark hair, and she's got piercing blue eyes, you're gonna go. It's gonna take off for you. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then so all of a sudden I come in contact with this client. I'm in contact with the client and everything, and we're 2 weeks before her gala, and I don't have a centerpiece. And so I know that I have to have 50 centerpieces that house $10,000 on each table, because that was the giveaway. So
What a generous little zhuzh for the guests.
Well, that was for the guests, not for me.
Yeah, you're like, I wish I was a guest.
Right?
I'm going to sit down with that.
I'm gonna slide a couple of coins over
Slide
here.
that.
But so all of a sudden, I was known for the designer that had fired all the florists in town, because I went through everybody, because her expectation level was so high, and then
Right.
mine's even more. So like, I was the person who fired every designer. Well,
Right.
I went back to my designer, my original, and I said, this is what we need to do, because then I went out shopping for my own container, because sometimes you just have to do it yourself.
Correct. Right.
And I found these little wooden boxes at World Market.
Love it.
And I said to the woman, I said, can you get me 40 of these? She said, what? And I was like, yes, I need 40 to 50 of these.
Thank you.
And I need them to arrive by this day. Can this happen? And she was like, yes, we can make this happen. And I was like, okay, great. So I went back to my florist, gave them the box, They came back with the floral. They took a photo of it, and I was like, that's it. That's it. And I remember being at an association meeting, and the photo came through, and I sent it to the client. But I knew in my heart,
You're like, we slayed this.
We got
Immediately,
it.
yes.
And she was like, okay, Patrick, you got it. You did a nice job. We'll talk on Monday. Thank you. I was like, yes.
You're like, and I will be partying and resting this whole weekend. Thank you very
Fully.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So came out with a hook, but with a hitch. With that, I ended up winning my first international award.
Really?
Yes.
Was it for the whole event design or the centerpieces? Or
It was for their innovation night, which was the introduction of 15 different liquor brands under Jim
Wow.
Beam. So I had 15 different vignettes,
Wow.
all different ideas that I designed, as well as have it cohesive design for the overall look. So it was a lot. Taking place at the Cosmo Boulevard
Beautiful.
Pool. So yeah.
But kind of clunky. That's not, if you've never been to Las Vegas, the poolside situation is like, it's not what you think it is in your mind.
No.
The plexi just to cover these pools sometimes is what? 50, 80,
Oh
100,
my God,
1,000 grand
easily.
easy.
Easy. So, it was very expensive, but also the view that they have
Unreal.
was untouchable. But that was one. And then the second one was my client from whatchamacallit, they were Brown & Brown Insurance, and they were coming from Florida, coming to Las Vegas for the first time.
Love it.
For their yearly meeting, and so they wanted a Las Vegas theme. So they do, like, I want to say 6 to 7 different parties within a week. And it's basically tear down one room, you're setting up another one, turn that one. It's back and forth.
You're not sleeping,
You're not
is what
sleeping.
you're telling me.
No sleep
You've
at
got
all.
that caffeine on deck, honey.
Everybody, Red Bulls.
Here you go. Get in the cooler.
Right. So, the CEO never would stay for the parties. He would duck out and all of that. And so they ended up having their Vegas closing night party, I believe it was, which they all dress up. And there's
Beautiful.
groups. Everyone has a theme. It's the Vegas theme. So everyone dressed up. Elvis's, playing cards, you name it, they had it. And I, towards the end, it was like midnight. And the CEO is still at the party. And
Living
I'm
his
like,
best life.
what is going on here? Is this really happening? And he's never out of, God, maybe 15 years that they've been doing party, he would never stay.
And they told you this in advance.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh.
And so it was known as the epic party, period. And the CEO never acknowledged the designer who would produce the party, nothing. That year I was announced. It was called the most epic party of the century. And I was just known for that. And I was just kind of like,
I've arrived. honey.
I thank you. And not that I had arrived, but I just am thankful for the blessing of having the opportunity and the team to help me do it. Because you're not
Yes.
alone.
Oh, no.
It could be a fighting battle the whole entire time. But
Correct.
the right client, the right team, and the right temperament. You know what I mean? And saying, all right, let's do it.
magic.
Yeah, completely.
Do you then, do a lot of these clients follow you wherever they go around the world or to other states? Do they have you come with them year to year once they know that you're like locked and loaded?
Yeah. They do.
Fun.
That client that I just spoke about, Brown & Brown, they had me do it several years while I was with the other company, for sure. And her
So
and I are
fun.
still personal friends. I love her and her kids. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah.
You're the uncle of the year.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of babies. So pivoting a little bit, because while you have this very, from the outside looking in, very high stress, fast pace, very go job, pivot. You also, one of my favorite things about you is you're a yogi.
I am. Namaste.
Yeah, namaste, baby, namaste in your case. Yes. So talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously, you have a dance background. It kind of is a no-brainer in my mind. You get into yoga, Pilates, things that kind of keep that flexibility and that ability for the body to move pretty seamlessly. But
Yeah.
what drew you to that? Because that's wild to be go in your day, and then you show up to the yoga studio and you're like, and we're letting it all go.
Yeah, like you said, it was, for me, I was stepping away from the stage and I needed to keep my body moving. I could feel my hips from being so turned out. I could feel that my hips closing, and it was the most painful thing. But in that, my GM at the time, she was like, why don't you come to this hot yoga class? It's called Bikram. What? Bikram?
Okay.
So I did the Bikram like everybody else. Did the Bikram stinky room.
The
It was
sweating.
so
The
nasty.
sweating.
So gross.
Ooh, and some people do not arrive with
No.
the washed and moisturized body that
No.
would be pleasant for the experience.
No, and some people just don't believe in using deodorant either. So you have that going on. So there's a mixture of things, but it all is funk, and it just gets to you. But
And then you're supposed to breathe deeply.
but that's why you have the secret.
A little zhuzhy.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I was just trying to keep myself fit. My GM, she took me over. I immediately fell in love with it. Once again, I felt the discipline. I felt not only the discipline and the physicality, but also in how I felt afterwards, the breathing. I could definitely breathe a lot better and deeper. My body also craved different foods after I started doing it, like more healthy foods, more fruits, vegetables. Water was a constant thing for me. And so I just kept that up throughout the years. I never stopped. And so went from one studio to the next because studios change, teachers change, and all of that. And before I knew it, like I've been doing yoga for now, like what? Over 15 plus years.
And you're an instructor,
I'm
right?
an instructor. So during COVID, a tragedy struck my family. I lost my sister. And it really kind of like, COVID was a blessing for me because there's no way that I could have actually dealt with my sister's passing and still being under pressure with the job that I do. There's no way. I would have left and I would have had a breakdown. With that, though, they offered teacher training class during COVID. And I was like, let's go in there and heal, honey. We can't be in this grief. We got to stop. And we are the leader in this family. So we've got to show people that they too have to step out. We cannot sit and just cry and, oh, poor me. No. She's still with. But we also need to keep moving forward. And so I went into the class not knowing what to expect, but I knew it was going to be hard. And it was. My body changed. But I also met some wonderful people, like people that I'm still in contact with today, that I still look up to as well. And it allowed me to heal properly. Not in this disjuncted way, like I'm healed and you're not healed. No, I have a cry when I have a cry. But I also know that I'm good. I'm good to talk about my sister, And if a tear arrives, it's nothing to be shameful of. But also, it allowed me to find this new passion and to helping other people, to inspire people. A lot of people look at me and don't know my age, and we're not discussing necessarily.
Honey, forever 25. Okay, they closed Forever 21, but Forever 25 is still present in this studio.
And so it's done me good, to stay on that path of healing myself, and also because we're dealing with so much in the world, to be compounded with all of that, plus losing someone you love and all of that, that's a lot to go through. And so if I couldn't do it and show my niece and my parents that I'm okay, then everybody else would be walking on eggshells. And so, it's for me, it's inspiring. It pushes me every day. Your body's not the same. There's moments when I can walk upright, and there's other moments when I'm like, But we still go in there and push it and get the leg up to the head. So.
Honey, this man, okay, first of all, we should have led with this. This should have been in the introduction. The high-kicking king of my life. This man, if you know me, if you've ever seen a show, if you saw Kinky Boots, this man kicks his foot to his ear. Every time. And it looks like it's floating. Someone said that about you when we were in rehearsals. I was like, that's a great way to describe him, actually. That foot said float and float. It's, I really love what you said, because we like to talk about grief on this show. We like to talk about what that looks like and how we navigate through it. And, the physical manifestation of grief is real. And I want to thank you for saying that and infusing it with this, ability to keep the body moving and functioning. I will offer to you, when my mom passed, my physical body was in probably the worst place it had been in my entire life. And movement is really, it's a solution. I am also not going to say my age, but as I gain a year, because it's a privilege to age, I will tell you, that use it or lose it theory, I really subscribe to that.
Yes, for sure.
If we're not stretching, if we're not just walking, if you can do nothing else, just walk. But it's a gift and a privilege to have a body that works for you. And one of my favorite things about our friendship is you and I had many late night discussions after shows, and you are such a soulful person, but I think your gratitude for your body and what it can do for you, you really rub that kind of sentiment off on a lot of us, and I really am grateful for that.
Well, it's funny. The other day I was just talking to my niece, and I was watching the World Series, the baseball for college, and it was held in Nebraska, where my niece lives. And she was like,
Yes.
yeah, we were, yesterday we were around the World Series. I was like, oh my God, girl, I'm watching the World Series right now. The boys.
Yes.
The boys.
Yes.
And she started laughing, and I was like, well, girl, remember, your uncle was a jock, honey. I did start the soft. I was one of the OGs that started the gay softball league here in town.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that about
yes.
you.
Oh yes, and I played for
Okay.
10 to 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's still very popular, you know. My dad, okay, we got to bring this full circle. So I played competitive softball my whole life.
Yes.
My dad, when I went to college and broke him and my mom's heart and decided not to play collegiately, I had opportunities and I was like, I'm burnt out, I don't want to do it. My dad umpired, and he umpired for the gay softball league.
Oh my
He goes,
God.
these are the most fun, easy games. Like, everyone's happy, everyone's having a great time. And I'm like, Dad, of course, of all the people, you would be the one to be like, all right, let's go, people. This is
Oh
gonna be
my
fabulous.
God! I wonder if he was one of my refs. I wonder.
I would die. Like, we just need to have you over for dinner one
Yeah.
night, and he's
Yeah.
gonna be like, I know Patrick. I
No,
never forget
and
a
it
face.
is crazy, but like the refs, they are so much fun. And I did. That was like the place where I learned to embrace my masculinity. I think that, you know, for me, everyone just assumes, oh, he's femme, and oh, he just embraces his femininity. No, not necessarily.
Right.
It's always trying to be recognized as a man, and now that times have changed and my attitude has changed and all
Right.
of that, and I really don't care about any of that. I am who I am. But
Yes.
in that, it taught me the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, what it meant to be on a team, what it meant to, not in a dance company, that's different.
So different.
But when you're in that competitive make, that box, and it's just you guys on, you know, getting ready to bat, and you have your little sayings, and
Yeah.
you know, when everybody comes up to bat, they have their little sing along, that kind of camaraderie, like that friendship, that team spirit, that did so much for me. So
Yes.
much for me. And it actually turned everybody's face a little bit, because they were like, wait a minute, hold up.
You're gonna
And
go play.
You're going to go play. And then they saw me play, and they were like, oh, he slides.
He's good.
Oh, he can run. He can catch. I'm like, yes, I can play any spot you want.
You're
very
like,
versatile.
I'm available for all positions.
Right.
It's and sport, I think it really is. It's still its very own unique microcosm of that.
Yeah.
Of teaching. It's not about. I think back, I feel very fortunate to have parents that were like, we want you to try things, and if you love it, that's great, and if you don't, whatever, right? I, of course, am like, as I get older, I'm like, I wish I was a competitive dancer and an acrobat. Everything would be easier, right? But no, it really teaches you, I think, a lot of what you're made of, and it teaches you how to work with others, you know? And that is such a beautiful gift, such a priceless, you know, transitional skill that you can use, you know, from here to here to here. So now, because you've opened the door for it, we are in Pride Month,
Yes.
which we love. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
So reflecting on this month and this time and what this means, and I think you nailed it on the head, right? None of us could have fathomed the world we're living in today. I don't care what you believe, how you vote, etc. This is not the world. This is not the jam. This is not the moment that I signed up for, when I was brought down by the little stork to my parents, right?
Not at all.
So to that end, I think, any thoughts on, you know, we know you do yoga, we know you do that, but you're also a human being. And so thoughts, like hot takes on this moment and this world, and what can we be doing better, Patrick? I mean, I genuinely, besides everything, because everything's on the table, honey.
Everything's on the table.
Everything.
Including myself, I've been on the table. No, I'm kidding.
He is on the table.
You know, to be honest with you, it's what we're doing right now. You know, like, I feel very, very fortunate, very blessed to have the life that I have. To be able to be Black, gay in this moment, to be sitting with you, you know, and having this moment, just having a moment, you know, and however you think, however I think, we are still able to have that conversation.
100%.
I think that people need to, one of the things I learned in my sister's passing was patience. And I remember having a moment with my father. And my mother was sitting in the back seat. I was driving. We were in Nebraska. We were driving back to the hotel, and I remember yelling at the top of my lungs, "I have no patience."
Yes.
And I was like, "You need to stop. Calm down. Take us."
You'd hit the wall.
Yep.
But then you bounced off the wall and you were like, ooh,
You're yelling
God
at your
knows
father.
We've all had those moments,
Stop.
man. Yep.
Stop. You acting too grown now. You know, everyone's hurting. You're not the
Right.
only one. And I think that's what people need to realize, that everyone's hurting. Everybody is. Everyone has a story. You're not alone.
No.
You're not, and these Karens and these folks that go around, I am very happy that I haven't come in contact with one. Whew. But I mean, they're hurting. They're hurting. There's a reason why they're coming after you.
Right.
You know? And so for me right now, like, my peace, trying to keep my peace is the most important. I don't care if you're my family, friends, whatever. If you're disturbing my peace and we're having a conversation, I need to drop it and I need to let you go. I cannot have, for whatever reason, and that's for me now to figure out what that is.
Right.
So why am I triggered? Why am I why am I escalating and allowing this person for what they're saying to escalate me? Let's look at that for a moment, because that's the mature way. The immature way is to go off and then spout your stuff out and no one's listening to one another.
Right.
That's where we are.
It's the Peanuts gang. Wah, 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 wah. Like, no one is making their point. First of all, thank you so much for what you just said. I feel on a soul level that slapped in a way that I have not, I needed that this week. So I want to thank you. It's so true. I think everyone is hurting, and that message you just delivered, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Because not necessarily us. I think we're a little wiser, a little more emotionally intelligent than that. But this reactiveness to everything. Everything is a 5-alarm bell emergency, and frankly, right now it kind of is. Everything that's happening is serious, right? And so I think that ability to keep your peace, and if everybody was really tending to their own garden, tending to their own house, their own soul, and really taking that moment to say, how am I making the world better? Getting out of that selfishness and into the reality that everyone's hurting. One of my favorite sayings, my friends always lose their mind when I tell them about this, so now I'm just gonna publicly put this into the world. You know, someone got really ugly with me. This was probably like 10 years ago, and just saying all these just horrendously hateful things. So for once, which is a shock to me and everyone else that knows me, I was quiet. I just sat there and listened. And this person got done with this really hateful dialogue towards me, and I looked them dead in the face and I said, did saying all of those hurtful, mean, and moderately untrue things about me make you feel better about yourself? The look on this person's face was priceless. What do you say? What's a combatant to that? What's a comeback to that, right? And it's like, she was dead silent. And we parted ways. That's how it ended, right?
It should have ended her by saying, "I'm sorry."
Good, right.
Why can't people say you're sorry?
Ownership and accountability.
What is wrong with? I don't get it.
I know.
We grew up the way to say you're sorry when you've done.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But that's accountability, Patrick. And I think, like, when you go back to that really beautiful, the way that you positioned and shared that idea that everybody's hurting, I think sometimes when people are in hurt, they're in grief. We're grieving the world that we thought would be. We're grieving the people that we love, that we miss. We're grieving what should be, which is compassion and love for human beings. A person is not a can, they're not a paper, they're a human being with emotions and feelings and lived experiences that shape their hurt or their way that they're seeing the world. And so I just could not be more humbled that you illuminated that today, especially today and this month with Juneteenth. I can't believe we're recording on Juneteenth. I love it.
I feel very special about it.
Celebration, you know, honoring and celebrating the Black community.
Yeah, truly,
for the contributions and and the beauty that has come out of tremendous hardship that we continue to combat and see in this world. I mean, that is...
It's so. Just recently, I went to DC World Pride. Speaking of Pride, yes,
and
I
honey,
did.
It looked like you had a good time.
Oh, I had a good time. I was barely wearing any clothes, but lots of sunscreen. Lots of sunscreen.
SPF, yeah.
But me and my friends, we had an opportunity. The moment we arrived, we had an early check-in, dumped our stuff, and then we went to the museums. And one of the museums at the top of our list, everyone's list, was the Black History Museum.
Yes.
And we went. And to take it all in from the outside of the structure of the building to immediately walking in and knowing how it's all laid out from the bottom to the top and going through the history of invention and the influence of Black, and then turning around and looking at the separate but equal, and then continuously going through every era that Black culture has been a part of the American culture.
Right.
It was very like a slap in the face almost.
Was it?
It was. It was like, God, we've done so much and continuously, and yet still get no kind of accolade or appreciation just as people.
Right.
Just as people.
Right.
So then, I go through the full weekend, and it's a gay old time and all of that. And there were things I realized in our community and the gay community also that were going on. And I have things that I'm working on to enhance a better experience. But also, coming back on the plane, I saw Harriet, the story of Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
And I'm on the plane, and I'm a crier. I do not care.
Yeah.
If we're in public and it's coming, it's going to come out.
The tears will flow,
They
and
will.
I am having my release of
Grown man.
sadness or joy. Yeah, let's go, baby.
So there I am, and I'm like moving, crossing my legs, uncrossing my legs, and the whole entire time. And meanwhile, this woman basically like helped all of these people because she had a broken heart, ultimately.
Out of her pain and her suffering and her grief.
She went back for her husband, and then her husband had remarried, and therefore she took the rest of her family and other people to freedom.
And said, move along.
And here it is, once again, the influence, how it all came together. Mm-hmm. And then the last moment of my DC was Burning in Paris, which, like when I say from start to finish, it was all about culture and the importance that people play and how we have become today. And Burning in Paris is about the ball scene of the Black community. Mm-hmm. And how they all came together and would celebrate. And each week, they would have a themed look, and they would have categories, and people would compete in these categories.
Love it.
And so this was the first movie that I saw when I was a freshman in college at San Francisco State. And I was like blown away, because at that time, we weren't having necessarily a lot of educational moments, but there was an individual in the dorms who thought it was important, so they would share these gay films and gay documentaries for our benefit, which now it still lasts and being influenced in Beyonce's concerts and in every
facet of performance and lifestyle culture. And it's, I think my deep reflection with a lot of this is like, don't ever forget where you come from, and don't forget the people that came before you.
Correct.
And that looks different for all of us, right? Whether it's race, religion, culture. I think it's important to remember and remind ourselves that you stand on the shoulders of a lot of people.
A lot.
And it's not pretty. The way in which people have grown up, have experienced the world, have experienced America right now, right? I have this, probably my most controversial hot take. I haven't done one of those today, so it's time. My mind says, I love this country because of what it can be. And for the people like me that get to have opportunities that I may not have in other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. And I think I have to keep reminding myself, two things can be true at once. I can be devastated, floored, shocked, and horrified at some of the things going on in my country, but I can still love my country. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hard. I wrestle and grapple with that every day. What is it today? Is it this or is it this? And two things can be true at once.
For
and
sure.
I think to what you're saying, Patrick, is that when we celebrate, we can still have a grief and a moment and a reflection on the fact that some of these celebrations, some of these movements, some of these moments in time had to happen for us to be here today.
For sure.
And to do better to honor the people that we never knew and we never met who paved the way for us. You know, and I don't think there's ever been a more important time for people to honor, respect, love, and share where they come from. And I want to thank you, because this show for me, I think I'm on episode 12 or 13 or whatever it is. But every time I get to sit down with someone and they infuse this beautiful piece of their story and their experience of the world, we are better for this.
Oh, for
I
sure.
am better for getting to know more about my fabulous friend, Patrick. Patrick, this has been, again, I knew the time would fly, and it did.
Oh my God.
We could sit here and talk for 3, 4, 5 hours. Just live stream us, guys. We'll set that up one night.
Over cocktails.
Oh God, a stiff cocktail for me, honey. You know I love my tea and soda. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love for you to share some closing thoughts to this camera right here. It can be a mission moment. It can be talking about your work. It can be, again, you've dropped so many truth bombs and so many inspirational moments in our time together today. But I would love you to give our guests just a parting word.
Let's see. The parting word, let's see. I would say living your truth, whatever that is, and what you do for work, how you are with your family, how you are with yourself, most importantly, but also how you are within your community. I think that by being who you are, being honest with that, it's a lot of work. It's not an easy job. It's not something to be taken lightly. But the more you know yourself, the easier it is to be there for someone else. I think that sometimes we put ourselves in the back burner, where we now really need to put ourselves on the front burner and really hone in on ourselves before we start to venture out in helping others. It'll keep you grounded, it'll keep you focused, and it'll keep you happy. And live in gratitude. Always get gratitude, always be thankful, because it could be gone tomorrow, it could be gone at the next moment, for sure. But with that, I love you all, and I look forward to another opportunity to share with you all.
Patrick, thank you so much. You always know, right, just how to reach into my soul and say things that I feel like I've taken so much away from this conversation. For our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in week to week. I'm so honored to be able to share these incredible guests, these incredible stories, and we hope that you, as always, will like, subscribe, and follow for more. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Caitlin. We'll see you next week. We did it!
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and follow us at Convos with Kate on all social platforms. It would mean the world to me. See you next week.